Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name's Melina, and today I want to celebrate fall the right way. I want to share with you my all-time favorite thriller books. Now, it's taken me quite a while to create this list. I feel like with thrillers, you have to have a certain criteria. I think it has to be well-paced, well thought out. I want multiple layers. I want to not really know who did it, what's really happening until the final reveal. And I also like to think, what would I potentially reread if I wanted to? So I have a list of books here, and I'm going to give you some of my reasonings for some of them, because some of them, I don't know if necessarily they're the best written books, but there is a reason why I put them on this list. So let's get started. So the first book on this list is The Housemaid by Frieda McFadden. Now, please do not click away. I know what people say about Frieda, and I am not really a Frieda lover, but if you're looking to get into thrillers and just don't know where to start, and you don't want something too heavy, too difficult to get through, or any of that stuff, I feel like Frieda is the perfect intro to thriller. Her books are fast-paced, short chapters. Every chapter ends on a cliffhanger. It makes you keep on rereading. And when I was restarting my adult reading journey and I started my Bookstagram account, I read this book and I really enjoyed it. And again, this book is not for the people who already love thrillers. I mean, maybe you'll like this one, but it's not the strongest written of the thrillers on this list, but it is fun, it is entertaining, and you will get through it very quickly. The next book on this list is another one that I read early on into my thriller journey, at least as an adult, and it was The Silent Patient. I think that The Silent Patient is a great beginner to thrillers book. I feel like I love a good psychological thriller. I feel like I like those things that really mess with your mind, mess with your perception. When you read it, you're just not really sure what's real, what's not. And so I really enjoyed this book, and maybe for some people they found it really predictable, but I did not. I think I'm a very much let me sit down for the ride and try not to guess too much. With the exception of a bad thriller, I will 100% try to solve the murder, solve the crime, solve what the thriller if it's not well written. But I really enjoyed this one. The next one on the list is Sharp Objects. Now, Sharp Objects is actually a HBO's limited series, and it's really well done. If you are not a big reader, I do really recommend the limited series. I actually read the book and then watched the series, and I feel like they're both equally very strong. I really like Gillian Flynn's writing. I think her writing is very dark, very twisted. It leans a little bit on the literary side because you do get to know her characters on a deeper level compared to some other thriller authors. I felt like this book is one of those books where everyone's kind of a bad guy. There is really no good guy. I love a morally gray character, and the story about a woman returning back to her old town home as a reporter trying to figure out certain things is just really fascinating to me, and I think the average person will really enjoy this book, so I recommend it. The next one is None of This Is True. I actually listened to this as a mix between audio and reading it, and the audio is really strong. It has a full cast, and that I always find really fascinating. They have the news reporters and the interviews and then the main characters, and they do it in this podcast format. And the way that it's edited is really interesting. Even if you're reading it though, I think that None of This Is True is one of those really strong thrillers. Again, it leans heavily on that literary fiction-esque, where it's written where you know the characters a little deeper than maybe a typical thriller. They give you a lot of extra details and just plot, which I really enjoy. I will say I had no idea where it really was going to go because it seemed so obvious in the beginning, and then I was really pleasantly surprised, but not surprised, but surprised, if that makes any sense. If you haven't given this one a read, I would highly recommend it. Now, the next one on this list is the only Riley Sager book that I've truly enjoyed, and it is the only one left. I think it is his strongest work. I think it is one of those books where I didn't know much about Riley Sager before reading this, so this was my first book by him, and I've come to realize that he is an expert on, is this paranormal? Is this not paranormal? Will it be paranormal? Will it not be? And I didn't realize when I was going into this, because I remember reading it and being like, this feels paranormal. Maybe not. Maybe it is. And I had read a book really early, right before this, that did have a paranormal element, and so I feel like it left that lingering will it won't it feeling, because I remember being really caught off by the other one. I think Riley Sager is a very strong writer. He writes really interesting characters, really interesting plots, and it's kind of sad because I personally have not really enjoyed his last few releases, but he's a strong writer, and just because every plot doesn't hit for me personally, it doesn't mean that someone else might not really enjoy it. Out of all the books I've read, and I've read 1, 2, 3, 4 of his books, this one is my favorite. Then I read The Perfect Child by, I think it's Lucinda. This book was a free Amazon purchase like many years ago, and I did not have high expectations for this book. I will start by saying that. But this book gave me, if you had ever watched The Orphan, I want to say it was like an early 2010s like scary movie. This gives me The Orphan vibes, but it's so much worse. It is super creepy, super frustrating, really just like so good. You want to really keep reading and figure out what's going to happen, and I think that is the perfect formula for a thriller, the book that just makes you want to keep reading because you want to know what's going to happen next. I feel like maybe that's true with all books, but with thrillers especially, you want to be at the edge of your seat. I really enjoyed it. I have not read anything else by her since then, but I definitely would be open to it because this book was just so strong. It was really great. My book club loved this book. Now, I want to lean a little bit into like the YA thrillers that I've really enjoyed, because you can enjoy a thriller and not really like the adult elements of them. And for that, I'm going to give you a couple of series. I really like the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I think first of all, she writes great books. In every genre that I've read from her, I've always enjoyed it. The Natural series I've read when I was maybe in college. I want to say like not 10 years ago, but like maybe like 7 or 8 years ago. I feel like that sounds about accurate. I have the old covers and I loved it. If you are a lover of Criminal Minds, you are going to love this series. This series follows a group of teenagers that were handpicked for like this special FBI program because of like circumstances in their life, and because of that they have these unique abilities to help them solve crimes. And so in the series, they are trying to solve these, like, what are they called? Cold cases? Cases that have never been solved, and they're solving those. Of course, they get stuck in a real life case that is like happening in present time, and the series picks up from there, and it's so fun. If you like the Inheritance games, I think you'll like this one more. I think this is better than the Inheritance games personally, and I really love the Inheritance games as well. Another YA book that I really enjoyed or YA series, is The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. The story follows Pip, who is trying to solve a cold case for like a murder that happened in her town many years prior. Obviously things take a dark turn. There is a Netflix series on it. They only have season 1 or book 1 right now. The series was well done and the books are so good. They're again quick pace, they're fun, they're dark but not too dark because they're YA, and they're just really good reads. You could read them super quickly. They have a UK version and an American version. I originally read the series through the UK edition, and I bought the series recently and they're the American edition, so it's kind of weird rereading this, and it takes place now in the US versus the UK. But the Netflix series does take place in the UK. I really highly recommend anything by Holly Jackson. I think she's genuinely one of the better fun thriller authors that consistently writes really good thrillers. Then I have 2 books by Tiffany D. Jackson. She writes the best twisted thrillers. She wrote Grown and she wrote Allegedly. Now they are both totally different in plot. One of them involves like a girl who wants to be a singer, and she gets basically picked up by this random artist who is much older than her and basically falls into this really toxic relationship with this older man, and obviously things take a dark turn. While the other one follows a girl who is in jail and she's trying to plead her innocence, and she tells a story of what she did or did not do. So it's really, really good, and I recommend both of them. Tiffany Jackson writes the best thrillers. She actually just came out with one this year that I still have not read, but I am planning to read for the fall. The final YA book on my list is Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades is one of the best YA thrillers that I've ever read. It was dark, it was twisted, it was really well written, and it really gave me, what's the name of that movie? I don't want to actually tell you the name of the movie because it might lead you to like the plot so I'm not going to say anything, but it's very strong. It is a strong read. It is great. I read through it, I think, in a day and a half. That's how good it was. I've never read anything else by this author, but one of my friends, Marie, highly recommended this book, and I'm so glad that she did because it was actually 100% worth it. It is one of my all-time favorites. It follows a main character who is basically a nerd, and he gets chosen to join the student council along with the most popular rich girl in their school. Now, I don't know how old they are. I feel like that they're seniors in high school. And obviously the boy's really surprised because you have to vote to be in the student council, and somehow he was chosen. And weird things start happening in their school, and they find out that they are being blackmailed, each of them. So the book kind of follows from there, where they're trying to figure out who's blackmailing them, why are they being blackmailed, what did they do wrong, what is happening, why are all these suspicious things happening, and so on and so forth. It's really great. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. Now, she is a great thrillers author. Her writing is really fun. She creates these stories that are unique and wants you to keep reading. This one I feel like was super twisted. It's a college reunion and basically all of these suspicious things are happening. I feel like it's one of those stories where no one is a good guy, everyone is suspicious, and you never know what's gonna happen next. I read this for my book club and we all love this story. I still sometimes think about it because I feel like some of these plot twists were really shocking to me. And so I really, really enjoyed this and recommend it for people. Now, I want to talk about a favorite that I read when I was in college, and to this day, I don't think there's a book I think about as much in terms of thrillers as much as this book. And it is In the Woods by, I think it's Tana French or Tara French. She writes these Irish thrillers, and I think they're called the Dublin Murder Squad. And so this follows a group of cops, and they're solving these murders or mysteries. I don't know because I only read this one, but the first one, it was crazy to read. It follows this guy who goes back to his hometown after there was a murder, and it kind of reminds him of something that happened when he was younger, like a similar case. And so he's trying to really solve this while also getting flashbacks to a really traumatic incident that happened in his past. And this book was mind-blowing. The way that things were woven into each other, the layers that were written, the plot twist, the way that it all was unveiled was crazy. And I may not remember all the details in this book, but I will never forget that ending and how it made me feel. If you've ever given her a read, or if you haven't, please give her a chance and read this one. It is so good. Of course, this wouldn't be a Thriller's all-time favorites without The Girl on the Train. Now, I personally have never watched the movie. I know everyone and their mother has. I'm not a big movies person, so it does take me a while. But The Girl on the Train, the book, was phenomenal. It was one of those books where I feel like you kind of have a sort of unreliable narrator. Your main character is a drunk or an alcoholic, and so she thinks that she sees a murder happen and she's not really sure because no one believes her. And it's very interesting the way that everything happens, because now you have this girl who is an alcoholic trying to solve a murder where right from the beginning you're not sure whether to trust her or whether to not trust her. And so it's really an interesting take on a thriller, because usually the thriller is some sort of sleuth detective and you feel like you could trust them a little bit more. But to have a narrator that you don't feel so confident in, I think is a really unique idea. I really enjoyed this book. I read this one again in college, I think at the same time that I read In the Woods. So I don't know if it would hold the test of time if I were to reread it now, but I feel like there's a reason it was a huge hit at the time. I think it is just a strong thriller. Then I have two more books. I have Hidden Pictures, and this was the first book club book that me and my virtual book club actually had about 2 years ago now. And this book was so good. I feel like it got me so excited to join this book club and talk about it with other people because I had so much to say. I had so many questions. I wasn't really sure what the outcome was happening, what was going to happen. I wasn't entirely sure about anything, honestly. And it was well written. It was really enjoyable. And I think we read one other book by this author, and I still think that Hidden Pictures is just much stronger of a read. I feel like read the summary, and if it's something that piques your interest, it has to do with a nanny who's taking care of a child who's a little bit troubled. If that piques your interest, I think this one's up your alley. Finally, I actually have the book right here because I just read it for my book club this month. It is Look Closer by David Ellis. I love this book. Again, this book made me feel all the things I felt in In the Woods by Tana French. I feel like the layers that were built in this book, the plot twists, the way that things were woven together was just really well done, and it really made you think twice about every interaction that you read about after the book. I'm just going back in time being like, did this happen? Was this mentioned? And books like that, especially when it comes to a thriller, they're really special. My book club had this as our book this month, and it was really special because we had David Ellis actually join our book club virtually. He was so nice. It was so nice to hear about the influence, what made him want to write this book, and kind of his process and everything that went around this, because as a fan of the book, there's nothing more special than hearing the author actually talk about it. He was really nice, and I highly recommend reading this. And if you guys do have a book club, he does virtual meetups with book clubs, so that's super cool too. But yes, I love this book, and this is my most recent favorite because I read it literally last week, so can't get more recent than that. But yeah, those are my all-time favorite thrillers. I don't think the list is that long considering how many thrillers I've read throughout my life. But if there are any thrillers that you love that are 5-6-star reads, please let me know, because I love a good thriller. I love a well-written thriller. Again, I love a thriller that has multiple layers. I like books that the plot is woven together perfectly. I don't really like the boom, 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 boom when it comes to like the plot twists all happening at the end. I kind of love the more slow unraveling till you're just left in complete shock. And if that's you, then you will like any of the books on this list. But yeah. Happy fall, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.